right, so section 5.3, we're still on elimination. Okay, so remember that we want to get x, y equal and the number to line up. Then we want to get x or y to be opposite. Excuse me. Then we want to combine equations and solve that. And then we're going to plug in our answer from step 3. So we'll get an x equal or y equal from step 3 and then the other one from step 4. All right, so let's see if I can fit this in here. All right, so if I'm going to solve that one, stuff's lined up, we're good. Get x or y to be opposite. So again, I tend to look at, do I have opposites already? So -2 and +3, I have opposites. If they were both positive, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. So I have a -2 and a +3, so I have opposites already. I'm probably going to work with the x's. All right, so again, start with the small number. Can I do 2 times something and make 3? No. So I'm going to have to multiply both equations by different numbers, and that's okay to do different numbers, but okay, so the 2 and the 3, I could make them into a 6. So I could multiply the top one times 3 and the bottom one times 2, and that'll give me a 6 and a -6 for the x's. So if I remember 3 times all of it, so -6x plus 15y plus 12. And then the 2 times all of it, 6x plus 4y equals 26. So you can see that, like, sometimes, well, we'll see a little bit more in a second. Combine them together. So I got opposites. So number 2 is done. Combine them. Well, that's 19y equals 38. So with elimination, you can get some higher numbers. 19 and 38 aren't like typically numbers that we work with a lot, but solve it, divide by 19, and y equals 2. So usually, if you get some high numbers there, they tend to work out okay. All right, so then plug in your answer from step number 3. Now, I got y equals 2. I always go back to the original equations. Don't use the red one or the blue one. The numbers got bigger. I want to use smaller numbers if possible. So let's go back to either of these first 2 equations that I wrote in black. You can pick either one you want. I'm going to pick the bottom one because all the numbers are positive. And I'm going to plug in 2 for the y part. Okay, and then we're going to solve that. 2 times 2 is 4. 3x equals 9. Divide by 3. And x is 3. Remember, the answer is a point. So plug in 3 for the x part, 2 for the y part. Okay, so some of your problems today will be like yesterday, where you only have to multiply one of the equations by a number, and then you will have some where you have to multiply both equations by different numbers. It'll never be the same number, so don't think you have to do the same. If you multiply it by the same number, it won't work. You got to do like 1 by 3 and 1 by 2 like this one. Now, if both numbers over here in this original problem happen to be like the 5 and the 2, they're both positive. So let's say that like the 2 and the 3 were both negative, like we didn't have opposites. You would have to multiply one of the equations by -3 or -2, one of them, to create an opposite. So just keep that in mind if you don't have opposites already. Get x, y equal number to line up, get x or y to be opposite, combine, solve, plug in your answer. All right, you will have a couple of little word problems. So I'm going to write down, this is an example from the book. So actually I'm not going to write down because it's a lot of like stuff. Well, maybe I will. But this is example 3 from on page 250. So it says a business with 2 locations buys 7 large vans and 5 small vans location A gets 5 large vans, 5 large and 2 small. I'm taking out a few of the words for $235,000. Location B gets 2 large and 3 small for $160,000. What's the cost of each type of van? All right, so we can do systems to do this. So we first need to kind of define a variable. So if I say x is the large ones and y is the small, you could use L and S for large and small. I don't like to use an S because mine look like a 5, but the letters don't matter. It's just a placeholder. Okay, so then I need to write an equation. So, well, it says location A gets 5 large ones, so 5x. And location B, and it gets 2 small ones, so 2y, and that equals 235,000. Okay, and then location B gets 2 large and 3 small for 160,000. Okay, so now I have a system, and this one kind of works out like the last one kind of did. So now it's just like go back to solving the systems. Okay, so I need to multiply the top and the bottom by something because I can't do 2 times something and get 5 or 2 times something and get 3. Now on this one I don't have opposites, so one of the numbers has to be negative to create opposites. Now it doesn't matter if you work with x's or y's. This is what I like to do though. I can make a 5 and a 2 into a 10. I could make this 2 with the y a 2 and a 3 into a 6. Well, so I'm going to either make it into a 10 or into a 6. I always go with the small number because the numbers will end up being smaller in the problem. So I can do 3 here, and I can do 2 here. But now I got to decide one of them needs to be negative, because if I distribute the blue 3 to the 2y, I get 6y, and if I do the red 2 to the 3y, I also get 6y, but I need one of them to be negative. So I typically use the smaller number. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but okay, let me transpose that here. X was the large van, so a large van costs 35. 5x plus 2y, 235,000. 2x, 3y, 160,000. And so we said negative 2 here and positive 3 there. Okay, so just doesn't look like there's enough room on the right, so I'm going to kind of jump down here. But the blue one, so we'd get 5 times 3 is 15x. 3 times 2 is 6y. And that's kind of big, so go ahead and use a calculator. If you wanted to, because they're both thousands, you could just do like 235 times 3. And then if you wanted to just write like 705, but understand that it's really like thousands, you could do that. But the red one, 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So really be careful of that negative sign. Okay, so don't forget it, because if you put positive like 4 instead of negative 4, or positive 320,000, the whole thing gets messed up. Alright, so combine these together. Okay, so that's going to be still thousands. That's going to be a 5, 3, and 8. 385,000 when you subtract. Okay, then divide by 11, and you'll get 35,000. Okay, so if we go back 1,000. Alright, now this might be the hardest one because the numbers are big, but go back to the very beginning and I got to plug in 35,000. Well, I'd rather do 35,000 times 2, not 35,000 times 5, so I'm going to pick the bottom one. So that's 70,000. So subtract 70,000. Divide by 3. And y equals 30,000. So that was for the small vans. $30,000. Okay, so you'll have, I think it's just 2 at the end of your assignment. So yeah, you'll have 6 just systems to solve. Answers are all whole numbers. 19 and problem, you're going to do like 13 to 22. So 13 to 18 to solve them. 19 and 20, they want you to find out figure out what's the error that was made in the problem. And then 21 and 22 are ones where it's like a little bit of a word problem. Now the numbers aren't nearly as big with the 160,000 and stuff like that. There's a $22.45. You can use a calculator on to do some of the calculations, but write the steps down. Okay, so like way up here, 235,000 times 3. I didn't write that anywhere on the screen. I just did it on a calculator, but I wrote 705,000. I'll understand that's what you did, and that's fine. Okay, but write down like what you see on the screen. Okay? All right. Have a good day, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.